From the News 19 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Afante with the update on Hurricane Dorian from the Monday evening 11 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center. It is still a very powerful hurricane, but it has not moved as of yet. The latest information as of 11 o'clock, winds still staying at 130 miles an hour, but it is stuck still in place right over the Grand Bahama Islands on the North Shore. Pressure is now up to 946, so along with the winds starting to get down just a little bit, the pressure is rising, so it is weakening just a little bit, but again, this is just a little bit. It's still gusting winds over 160 miles an hour, and being stationary where it's been now, from the time it made landfall, 1240 the other day, at least for the last 24 hours, the Grand Bahama Islands has been pummeled with these winds. At times was all the way up to 185 miles an hour. Here's the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. By tomorrow morning, it is still going to be stuck in place over Freeport and the Grand Bahama Islands in the northern Bahamas with winds up to 130 miles an hour. The anticipation, though, is as we get into the late afternoon and evening, it'll start its forward motion probably no faster than about 4 to 5 miles an hour, heading north-northwest with wind speeds of 125 miles an hour. That does put it down to a Category 3 hurricane, and with those winds by Wednesday morning puts it somewhere off the coast of about Juniper, Florida. But the track does continue to still stay off the Florida coastline. At some point Wednesday night, with wind speeds of about 120 miles an hour, that's when it'll start making its north-northeasterly turn. Indications right now still is a weak Category 3 to a Category 2 hurricane as it passes over the shorelines of Georgia and potentially passing over the shorelines of South Carolina. By Thursday night going into Friday night, it then passes over the Outer Banks and positions itself well off the coast of the Belmar Peninsula before it continues to head out into the North Atlantic. Now keep in mind that even though the track still has part of the cone in portions of the low country all the way to the Grand Strand, there's still an uncertainty if it'll get any closer, let alone any kind of landfall. So the target point right now for the timing of when we should start feeling the winds, especially in areas from Hilton Head, Paris Island, Kiwa Island, probably in the tune of about Wednesday morning to Wednesday afternoon as it starts to progress its way towards the South Carolina coastline. Now, the good news is that the spaghetti models are now almost in complete agreement that it will be well off the shore as Hurricane Dorian makes its way along the South Carolina coastline. Even though it's a little bit more consistency in where the models show, there still is a possibility, though, that this track in the spaghetti models may shift a little bit further to the west. Again, keep in mind that we still have at least 24 to 36 hours before we'll have a definitive action plan of whether it's going to stay more in the Atlantic or get closer to the coastline, especially once it passes northern Florida off of Jacksonville. Now, the tropical storm watches and the hurricane watches remain in effect for the entire low country from Berkeley and Charleston County all the way down into the areas of Jasper County. This now goes until Thursday night at 11 p.m. The tropical storm wind probabilities are now elevated, in which from Hilton Head at 72% to pretty much the rest of the low country in the Grand Strand coastal is now approaching over 80%, and possibly going to coastal inland gets to be about 60%. So there's a good chance now that we will see, at least on the coastline, at least tropical storm force winds between 40 and 74 miles an hour sustained, and that's going to last for a while because the projection of when this should start feeling the tropical storm force winds in the Jacksonville area pretty much right around 8 o'clock in the morning. Hilton Head, that may be more into Wednesday midday into the afternoon, and then by Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock, pretty much from Charleston all the way close to Allendale County and Point South, we start having the effects of the tropical storm winds. And then as we get into Wednesday overnight into Thursday morning, then it'll start spreading into the areas around the Grand Strand.